Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, June 13th, regularly scheduled meeting of the Henderson City Commission. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have a call for attendance, please?
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Here.
Commissioner Witt?
Here.
Commissioner Vowles? Is absent. Mayor Staten?
Here. First up on the agenda is a proclamation for World Changers Week.
Henderson honors the 2023 World Changers, whereas voluntary service takes on several different meanings, but none more important than a volunteer who works at his or her own free will without external compulsion. And whereas many citizens of this community contribute to the well-being of fellow residents and the welfare of our citizens by giving tirelessly of their time and energy without desire for recognition or remuneration of personal gain. And whereas today we gather to give a special thanks to the 2023 World Changers for their dedication to provide free labor for exterior housing repairs to improve housing conditions for approximately 17 low to moderate income households throughout the city of Henderson, the week of June 19th through the 23rd. And whereas World Changers has been volunteering their services to the city since 2005 with only a few years hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the partnership between World Changers and the city of Henderson has had a significant impact on our neighborhoods from the exterior repair of 276 homes with funding made possible from various sources over the years, such as Affordable Housing Trust Funds, Repair Fair Funds, and Community Development Block Grant Funds. And whereas it is fitting that we should extend official recognition to this organization which has worked diligently to the best and worst of Mother Nature, oftentimes unnoticed and unappreciated by the general public. Now therefore, Bradley S. Staten, by virtue of the authority vested in him as mayor of the city of Henderson, does hereby proclaim the week of June 19th through the 23rd, 2023, as World Changer Week in Henderson, Kentucky, and urges all citizens of this community to join us in recognizing the valuable contributions being made by the World Changers.
I wanted to say that the work that you all do in the community is very impactful to what we do, and we certainly appreciate it. We take notice of it at the City Commission. Here is a signed copy of the proclamation. And if any of you all would like to say something about the program, you are welcome to do so. But thank you so much for what you're doing in our community. We certainly do appreciate it.
Address the council here?
Please, that'd
Sure.
be great. Thank you.
They told me not to give you, you should have been told not to give me a microphone. But that's okay. First of all, on behalf of World Changers, first of all, my name is David Bates. I'm the project coordinator for World Changers for Henderson, Kentucky. And we have Reverend Jeff here is our local contact, and Miss Tammy, who has been doing the legwork to help find the homes and take applications that need renovation. But again, on behalf of World Changers, I would like to thank the city of Henderson for continuing to allow us to come into your community to hopefully make things better, to be a light in sometimes a dark place. And we look forward to continuing our relationship with the city, and excited about what God is going to do next week when we come back with about 120 students and adults from 7 different states and churches coming here to Henderson next week. So I would like to acknowledge the mayor and say thank you for the proclamation. The council, thank you very much for welcoming us, and we look forward to future endeavors. God bless.
Thank you. I'd like to say something to me. I got the chance to see you guys in action firsthand because you remodeled a woman's house across the street, and she had nobody to really help her. She had no money, and I thank you for everything you do in this community because there's a lot of people that y'all help that I don't know if you really know how much they appreciate it. So I just want to say Thank you for everything.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you.
So we have 3 separate service awards. The first one given will be to John Ivy for 25 years, and they're all going to be 25-year pins. And the other 2, I will actually ask that you announce so I can stay down there and award our pins.
Okay. All right. John Mike Ivy. Mike started his career as a firefighter on June 2nd, 1998. And that's going to be a theme today because all 3 of them started June 2nd, 1998. He promoted to fire driver engineer in August 2003 and then to fire lieutenant in November of 2006. Mike has been successful in receiving several grants for the city over the years. He completed peer support training in 2018 to help address PTSD in firefighters and has been a longtime participant in the fire prevention program. The city appreciates Mike's dedication and loyalty, and we are happy to take time today to thank him for all his hard work with the presentation of this 25-year service pin.
25 years, a long time to do with the city. Yes. But we certainly do appreciate your continued service to the city of Henderson. Thank you for 25 years.
Thank you.
The next one is William Billy Swartz. Billy started his career as a firefighter on June 2nd, 1998. He promoted to fire driver engineer in August of 2003. Billy was one of the original dive team members and is an NASBLA certified boat operator. And I don't know what that stands for, but it sure is. And is a longtime participant in the fire prevention program. Billy, the city appreciates your dedication and loyalty, and we are happy to have you with us today to thank you for your hard work with the presentation of this 25-year service pin.
Thank you for your service to Henderson. 25 years again. My goodness, we're doing something right, and you're doing something right with being here this long. We certainly do appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Next is Corey L. Staples. Corey started his career as a firefighter on June 2nd, 1998. He promoted to fire driver engineer in November of 2004. It has been said that Corey is one of the best gardeners at the fire department. Never gonna live that down, are you? We're happy to have Corey with us today to thank him for his hard work and dedication to the city with the presentation of this 25-year service pin. And I'd like, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And I have on here that I'd like to thank Engineer Staples, Engineer Swartz, and Lieutenant Ivy for your continued service and commitment to our community.
You know, and it's one thing, there's one thing about gardeners that people don't realize, is that gardeners on a yearly basis, they know how to plant things so that they grow and become fruitful, and you've been doing that for a long time for the city. And we certainly do appreciate your service to the fire department, your service to
5
Henderson.
years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get to the consent agenda, I wanted to ask, is there anyone in the audience who is here to bring something to the commission that is not currently on the agenda? We have one item for business that is not on the agenda, but it's a continuation of a discussion that we had from last meeting. Commissioner Pruitt brought up something for our attention last meeting, and he wanted to bring that up again, and I believe he wanted to bring it up in the form of a motion after he's done talking. Your floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, it's no secret that we've been having some concerns about animal control, Humane Society, because certain things that had happened. And there's another animal control organization, New Hope, that has been helping the city out and is not formally under the city umbrella. So I want to make a motion that we offer them $2,500 for them to continue their service of picking up stray dogs, cats, keeping them. Sometimes when our Humane Society can't come, they'll come. So it's almost like having a second string, and I think the city ought to help out so they can continue to offer us that cushion when Humane Society can't do, is overfilled or whatever.
So there is a motion on the floor to give $2,500 for continuing operations to New Hope. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Whit?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a consent agenda, and before we read the consent agenda, are there any items on the consent agenda that a commissioner would like to have pulled for further discussion? Hearing none, Marie, if you would, can you move on to the consent agenda, please?
Consent agenda for the June 13th, 2023 meeting consists of the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 regular meeting and the May 16th, 2023 work session. Resolution number 30-23, resolution of the City of Henderson authorizing the execution of one or more gas supply contracts with the Public Energy Authority of Kentucky for the purchase of natural gas from Peak. Number 2, acknowledging that Peak will issue its gas supply revenue bonds to fund the purchase of a supply of natural gas from Morgan Stanley Energy Structuring, LLC, a related affiliate of Morgan Stanley, or a special purpose entity created solely for the purpose of entering into a natural gas prepayment transaction, collectively referred herein as Morgan Stanley or Morgan Stanley Natural Gas Prepaid Supply Transaction, which gas will be used to make deliveries under the contracts, and number 3, for other purposes relating to the contract. Resolution number 31-23, resolution of the City of Henderson, number 1, authorizing the execution of one or more gas supply contracts with Peak for the purchase of natural gas from Peak. Number 2, acknowledging that Peak will issue its gas supply revenue bonds to fund the purchase of a supply of natural gas from J. Aron and Company, LLC, a related affiliate thereof, or a special purpose entity created solely for the purpose of entering into a natural gas prepayment transaction, which gas will be used to make deliveries under the contracts, and number 3, for other purposes relating to the contract. Municipal Order number 27-23, municipal order approving memorandum of understanding between the City of Henderson County Fiscal Court and the City and the Center for Addiction Recovery of Henderson Incorporated, and authorizing mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city. And Municipal Order number 28-23, municipal order accepting the stormwater management system maintenance agreement between International Paper Company, the Henderson Water and Sewer Commission doing business as Henderson Water Utility, and the City of Henderson, and authorizing mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Let's go ahead and get a motion and a second, please. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second? I do want to comment that I believe there is someone in the audience who would like to say a few words to the commission in regards to one of the items on the consent agenda concerning the memorandum of understanding with the Warm Center. However, we're going to go ahead and vote first, and then if you would like to come up and say a few words, am I reading that right? Angie, I'm sorry. Yes, okay. So we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, comments? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Whit?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye, and one of the items that we just approved was an item that we approved alongside the fiscal court, and that was how we're going to spend part of our money from the opioid settlement. And Angie Gatton, if you would like to come up and say a few words, I think I was told that you'd like to address the commission in regards to that.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Angie Gatton, and I am the new Community Addiction Awareness Coordinator with the Center of Addiction Recovery of Henderson. I'll be working in coordination with the Center for Addiction Recovery of Henderson to develop and initiate a community education program that the Memorandum of Understanding describes. I wanted to share a brief synopsis of the goals for this program. Prevention is critical to reducing overdoses and overdose deaths. Overdoses and related deaths have impacted our community on a critical level, with the number of fentanyl overdoses and related deaths in 2023 expected to supersede those of 2022. To date, there have been 40 fentanyl-related overdoses, with 10 resulting in death. If these numbers continue this trend, by the end of the year, this community could have nearly 100 fentanyl-related overdoses and 25 related deaths. This does not take into consideration the other types of overdoses and related deaths that impact our community daily. To effectively begin addressing this issue, our community needs to take a multidisciplinary approach with collaboration from not only community partners that are directly involved with substance misuse and addiction, but all stakeholders in our community. Stakeholders are people that have a shared interest in a mission. That means that all of us that live in this community are stakeholders. Each and every one of us must come together to defeat substance misuse, addiction, and the negative effects it has on our community. Through the funding that was secured through the National Opioid Settlement, the Center for Addiction Recovery of Henderson is developing a harm reduction and substance misuse educational program for Henderson County. The mission of this program is to empower the community through informational initiatives that will increase awareness and understanding of substance misuse, the negative impacts of substance misuse and addiction on the community, improve attitudes toward persons directly and indirectly affected from substance misuse and addiction, and improve utilization of community harm reduction resources while promoting creation of new resources. The primary objectives of this program are to decrease overdoses and overdose-related deaths, enhance knowledge and understanding of the substance misuse and addiction, improve utilization of harm reduction resources, and create new harm reduction resources, and increase the number of stakeholders actively engaged in harm reduction and prevention initiatives in our community. The program being developed for our community will target those in our community that are most greatly impacted by substance misuse and addiction. These are typically identified as parents, caregivers, and family unit members. A public relation educational initiative will be the primary focus of this program. A multifaceted campaign is needed to reach our community. It will involve meetings with stakeholders in various sectors and communities in our county, media collaboration, and social media connections. The goal is to make information and resources as readily accessible to the community as possible. The key to this campaign is to embrace the motto that knowledge is power. Knowledge is the vital component this community needs to empower each of us to take action to get ahead of this crisis and defeat substance misuse and addiction. And on a personal note, it seems very fitting for me to be sharing this with all of you on this date. 4 months ago today, my wife, Officer Jenna Gatton, lost her battle with cancer. She made me promise before she passed that I would find a way to return to Henderson to help the community that she passionately protected and served for over 20 years. With her example in mind, I will use this opportunity to passionately serve this community and help all of us work together to address and defeat addiction. Thank you so much for your time.
So Angie has served a couple of different roles in the past, and I have had the fortune of seeing you report to the commission before on a number of occasions, and I can say without a doubt that I think that you are the perfect person for this specific position. I think you're going to do a fantastic job, and I can't underscore the arguments that you made enough in terms of how serious fentanyl especially and other addictive drugs are the toll that they're having on the community. And it's just last year we had 17 deaths. This year you heard the statistics so far for this year. One death is really too much, but to have as many as what we've been having, it's really going to take a community-wide effort with stepped-up enforcement, education and awareness, and I think the passion that you're going to bring, as well as the coordination and knowledge and drive to this specific position, is really going to help supplement all the other efforts that are going on in Henderson. And hopefully with everyone working together, we can get a better handle on this thing. So thank you so much for coming to us today. And We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a second reading for an ordinance on parks and recreation.
Ordinance number 08-23, ordinance amending Chapter 17, Parks and Recreation, Mobile Food Unit Vendors Regulations. Ordinance amending Chapter 17, Parks and Recreation, Article 4, Mobile Food Units, Section 17-66, Regulation of Mobile Food Unit Vendors of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Henderson to prohibit any registered sex offender to work in or operate a mobile food unit that has a mobile food vending license issued by the City of Henderson while conducting business in designated mobile food vending spaces.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, discussion from anyone in the commission or in the crowd? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a second reading for an ordinance amending Chapter 17.
Ordinance number 09-23, ordinance amending Chapter 17, Parks and Recreation, Possession of Alcoholic Beverages. Ordinance amending Chapter 17, Parks and Recreation, Article 1 in general, Section 17-2, Possession of Alcoholic Beverages Prohibited of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Henderson to allow alcohol in Audubon Mill Park and a portion of the Doc Hosbach Tennis Complex in conjunction with the opening of the Entertainment Destination Center.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have an ordinance setting the pilot payment for our gas department.
Ordinance number 10-23, ordinance setting the payment in lieu of tax for Henderson Municipal Gas. Ordinance setting the percentage of the payment in lieu of tax or pilot to be paid by Henderson Municipal Gas to the City of Henderson, Kentucky.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a second reading of an ordinance setting the pilot payment for HWU.
Ordinance number 11-23, ordinance setting the payment in lieu of tax for Water and Sewer Commission of the City of Henderson. Ordinance setting the percentage of payment in lieu of tax or pilot to be paid by the Water and Sewer Commission of Henderson, doing business as Henderson Water Utility to the City of Henderson, Kentucky.
Do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a second reading of an ordinance setting the pilot payments for HMP and L.
Ordinance number 12-23, ordinance setting the payment in lieu of tax to the City of Henderson Utility Commission. Ordinance setting the percentage of payment in lieu of tax or pilot to be paid by the City of Henderson Utility Commission doing business as Henderson Municipal Power and Light to the City of Henderson, Kentucky.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a second reading for HWU's budget and appropriation.
Ordinance number 13-23, ordinance adopting Henderson Water Utility Budget and Appropriation Ordinance for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024 for Henderson Water Utility of the City of Henderson, Kentucky.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have the big one. Second reading of the budget and appropriation ordinance for the City of Henderson.
Ordinance number 14-23, ordinance adopting budget and appropriation ordinance for the 2023 through 2024 fiscal year. Budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024 for the City of Henderson, Kentucky. Whereas the city manager has prepared a proposed annual budget for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024 pursuant to KRS 83A.150. And whereas KRS 91A.030 requires the adoption of the budget and the appropriation ordinance by the Board of Commissioners based upon the budget submitted by the city manager. Now therefore be it ordained by the city of Henderson, Kentucky as follows. Number 1, the budget submitted to the Board of Commissioners by the city manager is hereby adopted and approved, and said budget is incorporated herein by reference, and 3 copies thereof signed by the mayor shall be kept on file in the office of the city clerk as part of the public record of the city. Number 2, there is hereby appropriated from the general and special fund accounts of the city of Henderson and allocated to the various funds of the city the following amounts. Fiscal 2024 budget appropriation, general fund. General fund expenditure total, $33,461,000. Transfer to PWI, $1,410,000. Transfer to mass transit, $556,000. Transfer to construction fund, $941,000. Transfer to emergency communications, $676,000. Transfer to police and fire pension, $333,000. Transfer to civil service pension, $74,000. Transfer to cemetery, $288,000. Transfer to bond fund, $1,061,000. Total general fund, $38,800,000. Natural gas fund, $22,544,000. Health reimbursement arrangement, $250,000. Civil service pension fund, $80,000. Police and fire pension fund, $333,000. Cemetery fund, $586,000. Health insurance fund, $9,256,000. Bond fund, $8,330,000. Public way improvement fund, $2,162,000. Construction fund, $25,614,000. Heart operating fund, $1,840,000. Sanitation fund, $4,841,000. Emergency Communications Fund, $1,851,000. Tourism Commission Fund, $265,000. Community Development Fund, $680,000. Police Investigation Fund, $102,000. Number 3, the number and classifications of city employees as recited in the annual budget is approved as presented. Number 4, the city manager is authorized to hire an additional 2 police officers when it is deemed necessary by the chief of police and the city manager due to the length of training necessary for this position. Number 5, the city manager is authorized to hire an additional 1 firefighter when it is deemed necessary by the fire chief and the city manager due to the length of training necessary for this position. Number 6, the city manager is authorized to hire additional non-hazardous duty personnel for key positions when deemed necessary for succession training purposes, and the expenditures of the additional hires do not exceed the appropriations granted. And number 7, this ordinance shall become effective as of July 1st, 2023.
Great job. I didn't see this. I never even saw your lips move. That was fantastic. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I want to remind everybody that the last several things we've gone through are second readings. So any discussion that we may have had, we probably had along with the first reading. But that being said, are there any questions or comments, discussion for this particular ordinance? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Quick?
Aye.
Mayor State?
Aye. In the last of the second readings, we have an ordinance amending job classification and pay plan.
Ordinance number 15-23, ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan. Ordinance approving amendment to job classifications and pay plan for non-hazardous duty positions, fire hazardous duty positions, and police hazardous duty positions for fiscal year 2024.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Quick?
Aye.
Mayor State?
Aye. On this next one, is we have a municipal order, and before we get to the reading of it, we have a municipal order appointing a new fire chief that's coming up next. And I wanted to just briefly explain what we're going to do is we're going to read the municipal order. We're going to go ahead and take a vote on the municipal order. And after we take a vote on that municipal order, assuming that we approve the fire chief as presented, then I would like to ask that the fire chief that we name come up to the front along with anyone else who wants to be at the front along his side, so that I can come and acknowledge him, and so that I believe his wife is going to pin him. Is that correct? Yes. All right. So now that we've got a few logistical things out of the way, we have a municipal order to appoint a new fire chief.
Municipal order number 29-23, municipal order approving appointment of Joshua K. Dixon as fire chief for the city of Henderson.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second? So we have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, discussion from the commission regarding this particular municipal order?
I just want to say I was part of this interview process, and all the candidates that we had were highly qualified and very good. And Josh just stood out just a bit more than the rest of them, and I think he will be an absolute great addition to the city.
And I will say I was not a part of this particular hiring committee, and thank you, Commissioner Thomas, for your service on that hiring committee. We certainly do appreciate it.
Thank you.
But I wanted to echo what you said. We've got a number of just really great leaders in red shirts in this room. And we've got a number of great leaders who put their name in to be the next fire chief. And I'm awfully proud to be voting on this particular ordinance for this particular person, because I think this particular person is going to do one heck of a great job.
Agree.
Any other comments or suggestions, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye. And if we could have our new fire chief come up to the front to the podium.
Josh? Yes, she is.
Okay.
Josh Dixon began his career at Henderson Fire Department on July 16, 2007. He was promoted to engineer on August 8, 2011, then to lieutenant on February 15, 2016. Josh then promoted to division chief in December of 2020. Josh is a Henderson native with deep roots in this community. He graduated from Henderson County High School and attended Henderson Community College. He is married to Missy, and they have 5 children and 2 grandchildren. Josh's family is in attendance to be part of the pinning ceremony.
All right. No. I think we're going to. So if you would go ahead and say what you need to say and pin our new fire chief, and then if I could have a brief handshake before we ask you to say a few words, that would be great. Josh, it is indeed my honor to be the first one to welcome you as the new fire chief for the city of Henderson. It's a big responsibility, and I'm sure you're going to do a great job.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have a few words, but thank you all. First, I'd like to thank my wife, parents, our children, for the love and support and patience through this process and my career in the fire service. You all are my everything, and I love you all. Next, I'd like to thank my city manager, Mr. Newman, Mayor Staten, Board of Commissioners, Assistant City Manager, Mr. Cox, our HR Director, Ms. Galloway, and all else that participated in this process. Thank you all for having the confidence and giving me the privilege to lead this fantastic department. Lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank the men and women that make up this great fire department. These women and men sacrifice each day for our community. They risk their lives to ensure that we always feel safe in our homes and with the treasures that we own. These firefighters not only respond to calls that involve fires, but also respond to various emergency situations, which requires them to be on their A game at all the time. But also respond to various emergency sometimes without even knowing what the dangers to expect. They sacrifice time with their spouses, their children, their parents, and other loved ones to save members of our community that they don't even know. They do all these things because they are selfless. I personally want to thank them for their professionalism, compassion, efforts, and the love for our community. And they are the reason I want to be standing here today. Thank you all.
So we're going to take just about 30 seconds and let him finish the conversation. Well deserved. Maybe a minute and 30 seconds. All right. We do have some more business that we do need to get through at this meeting. And in continuation of that, we have a municipal order awarding a bid for 4 pickup trucks.
Municipal order number 30-23, municipal order awarding bid for purchase of 1 full-size crew cab pickup truck for the Public Works Department, 1 full-size extended cab pickup truck for the Codes Division, and 2 full-size double cab pickup trucks for Henderson Municipal Gas to Henderson Chevrolet GMC of Henderson, Kentucky, in the total amount of $163,055.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions, or suggestions?
I just want to make a comment. I'm so filled up when we reward a Henderson dealer. I remember times it wasn't like that, and we'd always be in Louisville. So I'm excited and really excited about giving this money to someone in Henderson. We should, if we can, spend our taxpayers' money with the people in Henderson, or small businesses, or big businesses, and this is good.
I want to say the same thing. We had a meeting this morning where we go over the agenda items every Tuesday morning, and that's one of the exact comments that I made too. I'm not necessarily excited about the cost of pickup trucks these days.
Oh, yeah.
But when we have the opportunity to do business with someone in Henderson, that's
Yes.
a big deal, and I'm happy we were able to do so.
Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge Dawn Wynn in our finance department, David Steele, who's on the back row with sanitation. But between the two of them, they were instrumental in pulling all this together. And I think what y'all need to know is availability of vehicles is very, very poor. And I'll give them credit in working with the other departments to make this happen, and thank you too.
All right. We do have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor State?
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order authorizing the purchase of materials for the Peabody Building roof.
Municipal order number 31-23, municipal order awarding bid for roof restoration for the City of Henderson Codes and Police Department located at 1990 Barrett Court, Preferred Construction Services Incorporated of Henderson, Kentucky, in the amount of $359,700.
Before we get a motion and a second, this is a pretty large expenditure. Buzzy, would you mind to expand on this roof situation?
I'm not trying to skirt the issue, but Jeff Putman, our facilities manager, is here. I would rather he explained how we came to this approach.
Absolutely.
So just it's kind of a continuation. I was able to have, when the bids came back in, the lowest bid was a little bit more than we had for capital at the time, so now we're just pretty much spreading it out between 2 budget years. But the reason why we're doing this is because this is a coating system. We purchased the building about 2001. Nothing's been done to the roof. Has leaks. And we put all the money in it. I mean, our police department's in it, 911 center, We've done, I don't know how many millions put into it just to make it earthquake proof for the public safety building. But if we do not continuate with this coding system, then what will happen is the cost keeps increasing for the chemicals. Actually, if you look at the numbers, preferred services actually saving us a little bit of money, because I know the chemicals went up in January while we were discussing all this. So if we don't act now and you get more saturation on the roof, until what's gonna happen is you're gonna have to rip the roof up and then build the roof back up to code, today's code, not to 1984 when the building was built. You know what I mean? So it's gonna cost about 3 times what this cost is. I know it's a big number, but it's something we need to do to protect that building and, you know, give us and it's a 20-year warranty once we do this process, and it's not considered re-roofing. So you're not adding a layer, you're just conditioning the roof and putting more of a membrane on top of it. And this process can be done again after 20 years if you want to do this process instead of ripping everything all the way down to the deck and building back up. So.
You did a really good job explaining it. I'm going to call for a motion in a second, but if you don't mind to stay up there just in case anyone has any follow-up questions. We get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
We have a second? Second. All right, now that we have a motion and a second on the floor, are there any other comments or questions while we have him up here to answer?
And when I did see that number, you know, it did kind of choke me up a little bit on
Yeah,
the roof. But
yeah, it's sticker shock. It's
Yeah.
definitely sticker shock.
But they're using that on the buildings now. This what they're putting up there, that membrane part. I said they're using that on buildings now for a lot of buildings still.
Oh, yeah.
You know how we used to tear them out and they're
Yes.
just going over them with that.
Yeah.
And
And,
it
well-
seems like it's doing well.
Yeah, and well, the thing is too, because of the building, think about it. We have our tower up there. We have a whole cable tray for everything for 911, emergency management. So if you ever have to do the complete roof, that whole tower system, everything's going to come off. This coding system, they will be able to do with everything up there on top, just kind of slide stuff around, be able to code it and fix it, and without taking down stuff that we really need for our 911 system, you know. So.
Good deal. Any other questions?
And we got a 20-year warranty.
Yep.
Yes, and it's 20-year warranty.
20-year warranty.
Yes.
Well, wonderful job explaining. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order authorizing the award of contract for auditing services.
Municipal order number 32-23, municipal order authorizing award, whoops. Yes, auditing.
Auditing.
All right. Municipal order authorizing award of contract for auditing services to ATA CPAs Plus Advisors, PLLC, for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2024, June 30th, 2025, and June 30th, 2026.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions, suggestions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. Next up, we have a municipal order awarding a proposal for property casualty liability insurance.
Municipal order number 33-23, municipal order awarding purchase of property, public officials liability, general liability, auto liability, and physical damages, law enforcement, ocean hull, inland marine, crime, fine arts, cyber coverage, and excess liability insurance to be effective July 1st, 2023, for the annual premium of $583,579.76.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I do want to point out that this particular one is a little different this year. It's been a long time since we've actually bid out the agent on this particular item. It is a big ticket item, and so last year we had decided that every 4 years, at the beginning of every mayoral term, that we're going to go through the exercise of just checking the prices and looking around and making sure that we have the best that we can offer the city. In this case, we do have someone who came in lower, and that is the one that is being suggested to us. Do we have any questions, comments, or suggestions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Mayor Staten?
Aye. City manager's report.
I have 3 items today. First, Dylan Ward, do you mind to bring Chastity up with you too, please? Would you like to introduce?
Yeah, so this is Chastity Bryant, Susan Bryant's daughter. I think some of you all might have met her at the work session, but she's our summer intern, so she's been spending some time with us in engineering. She has spent a week with HW already. She's got a week coming up with gas. She's spending next week with codes when World Changers is here. And yeah, so she's gotten to do, she's very sharp. So she's already doing paving estimates, road estimates. She's doing kind of a road diet right now for Atkinson Street. Y'all know what we did on Atkinson, a few years back. She's looking at, what it would take for the inner city improvements, looking to see what it would take to do that. So I've had her working on that, and she's a very sharp young individual. She's entering her sophomore year at University of Louisville. So you want to present the rest of this for me? Okay.
Dylan, before you begin, I think on behalf of senior staff, we want to extend our appreciation to you, to Crystal Winhouse, who's our superintendent over the bus service, Dawn Wynn in our finance department, who takes care of a lot of the FTA paperwork, Dawn Kelsey, Connie Galloway, and Sam Lingerfeld, who help support you with getting through the triennial review. So you may give them a brief overview. What is a triennial review?
Yeah, so I have the easy job. My job is just managing it. Then I get to hand all the assignments, the things that legal has to do, safety or finance, and they actually produce the deliverables. But basically the FTA, as you all know, we get a large sum of our money to run our best system through the FTA. And so as part of that, they want to make sure that you're using that money properly. And I might misstate something. Dawn's really the expert when it comes to the FTA money and all that. But it really is a team effort. So basically they come in every 3 years and they want to look at all your records for the past 3 years in 23 different categories and make sure that you are following their rules. And so I've got a list here. It's everything from legal to award management, asset management, maintenance, procurement, disadvantaged business enterprise, Title VI, ADA stuff, paratransit. There's a few that aren't applicable to us, like charter bus and school bus. There's also the drug and alcohol, public safety, and they added cybersecurity recently. So basically, the way this starts, they send you a packet, a very thick packet, and they ask you for all these documents that you have, so they can basically go through their 300 or 400 page book and answer all these questions. And then if there's any questions that they find that they can't answer with what you've submitted, they ask for follow-up documents. So I think in February we had our initial submittal, and then I think last month or so they sent us a bunch of follow-up questions. We had a chance to send them more documentation, and then a couple weeks ago we actually had our visit. The visit this time was actually pretty brief. Usually it's in person over the course of 3 full days. This time it was like 1 half day and then a couple hours 2 other days. And so they just went through them. We went through different categories. We had the appropriate personnel there. I'd like to reiterate what Buzzy said. It's definitely a team effort. Finance, especially Dawn Wynn, she usually has the bulk share of things that need to be done in the records, and Crystal as well, and then everybody else Buzzy mentioned. It's definitely a team effort. But so we sit down, and then they give us a couple days to submit the documentation. And actually, when we had our last review 3 years ago, we had a substantial number of findings and things, and honestly, even a couple months after, we were still submitting things to them. But I'm proud to say that this go around, by the time that they issued the final report, they had a couple minor findings, very minimal things, but by the time they actually issued their final report, everything had been closed. So within a week of the triennial review, everything was done, everything was complete. We're actually still waiting, I think, on our final report, but I have the preliminary final report, and it all looks good. And just a big thanks to everybody that we've come out of that successfully, and we'll see what the future holds as far as whether we have any more of these or not. But with the changes, this could be our last one, maybe for a little bit anyway, potentially. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It really does take a lot to get ready for and to pass an audit. And if you've never been through through a scheduled audit like that, then it certainly can be a stressful situation. And to come out of it with all closed findings and no open findings at the end, it's a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Briefly, I would ask Sam Lingerfeld to come to the podium and bring your summer intern.
Hello, this is
Sam?
Stefan McGuire, that he's a local guy. He's transferring from community college out to down to Murray State. So he's gonna be helping me for the summer do some safety things that we need to get done. His main responsibility is going to be doing PPE assessments, personal protective equipment, which is something we're required to do by OSHA, and ours hasn't been updated in a while. So that's going to be his main focus throughout the summer after we get some training in. He has been with the police department up with Jermaine Pointer, Officer Pointer, that's taking him around and letting him ride around with him in a car a little bit. Tomorrow he's going to be with the HWU and one of their crews out doing some observation of the work, so he can kind of get an understanding of what we do as a city, because he's going to have to be asking a lot of questions about what are you doing, what type of PPE should you be wearing, what type are you given, so we can complete our PPE assessment this summer. So. Any questions?
The one thing I would say, this is his second summer. First summer, you were at our economic development area and spent the summer with them.
Right.
So we certainly hope, wish you well. He's not going into the public sector, but we tried to hire him as a police officer. But we're not going to give up on him. But I think you're going into
Social work.
social work. So we told him that we all need some help with that. So, but it's great to have him here, and he's part of our community, and glad to see you here, and we hope you come back next year.
Thank you, appreciate it.
But the one last thing I want to say, thank the Board of Commissioners for allowing us to fund these positions, but the benefit is to bring our local students back into our community and help support them in whatever endeavor that they decide to pursue in their career. And again, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Sam.
Chastity, I forgot to say that about you, but I see you every day, so.
Thank you all very much. And I think we still have one more item on the city manager's report.
We do, Chief McKinney. As he approaches the podium, this is a follow-up pursuant to our last meeting with regards to lateral and retention plan that the chief has put together. And what we will ask you to do after his presentation is to make a recommendation, if you support this plan, is to have the city manager and staff go back and formalize this into a document to be approved by this Board of Commissioners.
Before I get started, thank you all for letting me address you today over some of our concerns and requests. But before I get started, I know Stefan and his family. I've known them for years. And you can bet your bet I gave a good pitch at the police department to get him to come over. And to that point, if we ever look at a social worker or anything in that capacity, he's number one on my mind. So we're just going to keep trying, and I want him to know we got a place for him if he ever finds himself where he feels compelled to do that. Commissioners, I've talked a couple times about the lateral incentive. The first time I done a presentation, I asked for $12,000. Since that time, we lost one or two to different departments, so I've come back and I'm asking for $15,000. If you'll look at the cover page of this plan, there's a brief synopsis there. If you can just read that real quick, we'll let you know kind of the state of where I'm at and where our police department is at. Some of that's internal information, some of it's budgetary information, but I just want you as commissioners to know exactly where I'm coming from. Again, I'd like to talk about the lateral for a officer that comes from another department, to give them at least $15,000. I've talked to Don Kelsey about how to do that, and it would appear we need some type of discretion, but besides years of service, and if they have rank, so I'm almost to the point, Don, where maybe we just make it, whatever we're gonna give, we give. And just that way, it's a point blank, we put it out there. But I can't tell you how important it is that we bring laterals to our department as quick as possible. Right now, if we have, you have to understand, we've been working since before January to fill 3 spots for September. Since January. We're about to close on the background on the second one. That's kind of the uphill battle we're trying to do. The academy is 6 months behind. So once I get these 3 filled, I will call up and request, which they don't really like to do, but can you hold me 3 for your next available? If I don't do that, by the time we get our people ready, I'll have to wait 6 months again. So that's kind of where we're at, and we can't keep up. I had mentioned in my last presentation that we had an officer that was looking to leave for another agency. He did. They're going to buy his contract out for $32,000, I think, Connie? $32,000 they're paying for a 1.5-year officer. That is the value that's on officers right now. I was really hoping to get 3 years. That's our standard contract, but it's not happening. So if you look at the page 2 there's a chart at the bottom that shows our manpower and it shows where we're at. And all the way down at the very bottom kind of shows where we stand. And I just think that this is the one thing we've not done. We've asked for laterals. We have a program, and now it's time to enhance and enrich that program to anyone that's around us. Maybe a smaller agency, maybe an agency that doesn't, someone may be looking to come to the Henderson area. This might be enough to let them know how serious we are about hiring them. So that's the one thing I had already kind of talked about. The second thing I want to talk about is the cost. I talked about this in a presentation as well. The cost of a non-certified recruit officer, when you get done with the 38 weeks of training, is $72,000. That's on page 3. We can get that down to $20,000, and it only takes 8 weeks with a lateral. So that puts a savings of $52,000 on each lateral we bring over. So I think it's a win-win. It's a win financially, and right now we could really use the officers. Another little enhancement to the lateral program. A while back, we were talking to a lateral who needed time off that he already had scheduled, so I was wondering, why couldn't we just give a lateral 80 hours of vacation up front? If they're leaving a department they've been on for 5 or 6 years, 7 years, and they've got this vacation accrued, and then they want to come to us, maybe we could at least give them something that they wouldn't have to build for a year or month-to-month basis. That might give them something to look forward to. The other thing is we currently pay year for year. If you leave another department and you come to Henderson and you're a 7-year officer, you come in at our 7-year pay scale. And I believe that was done when Chief Cox was here. A really good idea. No one wants to leave a 10-year officer and come in as a 1-year officer, even if they want to. Financially, they can't do it. So I'd like to enhance that and take it from 10 years to 15 years. So that would mean if an officer is 15 years old, when he comes here, he would hit our scale at 15 years instead of coming in at year 1. On that same page, this is along with the lateral, this is the biggest and the most important with the lateral. And this is a retention scale. A lot of other departments that we looked at, and we're looking at a way to give longevity to our officers who stay here. So the way that works and what we've seen is at 3 years, once you hit 3 years of service, you get an incentive pay for a certain amount. It's a one-time pay for achieving that year of service. So we looked at a 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18 year, because of course now it's a 25-year retirement, so you really need to string it a little further along than before. So when an officer hits 3 years, he has something to look forward to. Hey, I've got a couple $1,000s that they'll invest in me. At the end of that, if you was to add all those up across through there, it's $27,000 for 18 years, which really, in my opinion, that's the incentive that you'll be getting for an 18-year officer, where I stand right now, I would pay double that for an 18-year officer to come to Henderson. So I feel like it gives our officers a reason to stay. And right now, we could use a couple of reasons for our officers to stay. I've got on the next page there, you'll see that obviously the 3, 6, 9, 12 will come with a bit of a price tag there on page 4. That's an estimate on where our officers are at now. Now, once this was implemented, obviously the next years it would be sporadic as to when someone come to their hire date. So it wouldn't be an upfront. It might be the same cost, but it wouldn't be upfront. It would be gradually through the year. But on my cover page there, I pointed out on our manpower is so low that's what puts us so far under budget. And if there was a way to somehow help out the ones that are still with us. Another thing too, I would like to look at and talk about is, and this may be more, some of this will probably be something for the city manager, for HR, is I'd like to look at our lieutenants to be removed from exempt status. They're right now considered exempt status. We're so short that they take calls like everyone else. They go to calls, they go to wrecks, they do a lot of stuff. What that does, it allows them to claim overtime. We're at a place at the police department where sergeants with normal overtime make more than lieutenants. So you promote to the rank of sergeant, and then it kind of stalls, because if I really want to get involved and help lead the department, I'm going to lose money. Sometimes family situations don't allow that. So that's something that I think is not unreasonable. It's my understanding that local departments do that as well, that are close to us, where their lieutenants can also have overtime. The last thing I'd like to talk about is, as you look through our scales there, we have 7 retirees right now. So if today our retirees walked out, if they said, hey, we're retired, whatever, we're going to get a job somewhere else, we've had enough, I'd be losing someone that's in a lieutenant role. I'd be losing someone who is experienced and handles our evidence room, our evidence collection, probably one of the most important jobs we have there. I'd be losing a training officer who's a retired training sergeant. I'd be losing an administrative officer that helps us with policies and procedures and everything like that. Only one of those officers take call. They all work in something specialized. So with that in mind, I'd like to give something to the retirees. So as we were talking about this, we just decided, why don't we just let the retiree, they're already, when you retire, you come back at the 20-year mark. Why not let them progress like everyone else? And every 2 years, they get a little bump. Every 2 years, they get a little bump. Every 2 years, they get a little bump. A lot of people say, well, they're retired, they're drawing 2 checks or whatever. I'm looking at it for what they're doing for the police department. I'm not concerned with their finances or what they have coming in. I'm looking for what are they providing to my department? What services are they allowing us to do? So there's a lot in this plan. I know that, but I think you as a commission, you need to kind of know exactly where I'm at and where we're at. And this is me sitting around thinking of things we've talked about. This stuff, this is not new. Chief Cox and I talked about this years ago. What are we going to do when they quit applying? What are we going to do when they don't stay? Well, the when is now, and we're in a really, really tough spot. So that's what I have. I threw a lot at you, and if you have any questions whatsoever, this is a rough draft, this is kind of ideas. If you're gracious enough to let me move forward, we'll work on the policy end of it. More than glad for you all to work with the city manager and give me some direction, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Before we open it up for comments from us, Buzzy, I do mean to put you on the spot. I was going to say I don't mean to, but would you share with us what some of your thoughts on this might be?
According to what the chief said, we have talked about this nonstop probably for 3 years. And things are not getting any better for attracting new people to our department. In fact, we joke, Mr. McGuire, you say we offer every young man, woman we see, are you interested in becoming a police officer? And let me say, it's going to take all hands on deck to keep our department at a staffing level to maintain our city. And right now, I know for a fact they're struggling to do that. And there's a lot of overtime being worked. We're very limited on the extra things we can do. And I will say we have to do something. And I think probably, Chief, this is probably at the end of the road of any rabbit you can pull out of your hat to attract or retain officers.
Yeah, we've pulled out all the stops, and this is getting really close without getting really outside the box and creative with some ideas of bringing people in. Of course, we've talked about even housing and other things, which we're talking about those things in the inner city things, which positive feedback. Everybody loves that idea. But yeah, as far as things I can bring to you and things you can help me with directly, we're getting to about the end. And like Buzzy had mentioned, the thing about it is how it impacts is, without getting into numbers, if someone calls and says, hey, we have this going on, can you have an officer go by? Can you have somebody stand by? Normally what we'd say is, we'd call a shift lieutenant who says, yeah, I've got 7 or 8 working today, we'll send somebody by. We'll have somebody cover, we'll do, but when you're at the minimum every day, you don't have no one to pull because you're at the minimum. And when you're at the minimum means, 1 or 2 calls ties up the whole shift. And then now you've got sergeants taking calls, you've got lieutenants running around, you've got us, majors up there on the phone, hey, what's going on? And sometimes call people in who work nights or who's off that day. And yeah, we've paid a lot of manpower. And it's getting to the point where manpower's great. I mean, and the overtime's great. Everybody's making really good money, but now they're getting wore down where you can't get people to come in. The overtime's not being filled. So
at the end of our discussion, I think they're going to want consensus from us on which direction to go. But before we ask for a consensus, I did want to open it up to the commission for questions or comments from the chief about what he's shown us today.
I don't really have any questions. I don't think it seems pretty well thought out. I think that was the general theme when we had our first work session back in January, was we knew we, as a city, needed to try to retain and attract employees. So, I think we talked about all the money we invested at the community. Obviously, invested in safety is probably, at least in my mind, the most important part of it, because without safety, can't do anything that we're trying to do as a city. So I'm certainly in favor of everything that's been presented, and I think it's a good framework to start with. Appreciate your work.
Commissioner,
Let me go.
Yeah, we gotta start, we have to start somewhere. We have to do.
I think, you gonna go? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay. Everything, we've talked about this, like I said, for years, and it was getting worse. But what I would do, I know we gotta do some stuff and add some incentives. I would like to get with Robert before we, start nailing down numbers, complete numbers. I think that would be I would be comfortable. If he's smiling, then I'm okay. So when we get with Robert and we get the numbers right.
No, and I
Because
understand.
you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Man, we gotta do everything we can to get all the laterals we
Yeah.
can. Whatever it takes to get laterals, we're saving money on the back end.
Yeah, and with this being the first time that we've seen a lot of this, you know, we've talked about it, but the actual numbers on paper, and a lot of the things in here are different or in addition to what we have talked about before.
Yes.
I do think you made a really good point, Commissioner Pruitt, and I think everybody is. You know, I think the collection of people on the city commission value safety very much. We've obviously come a long way over the last 5 years and still have a little bit of ways to go.
Yeah.
And so I would certainly be in agreement with the rest of the commission. I do want to make sure that as we move forward through the discussion, that we do continue to involve Dawn in the discussions, because when we're talking about ways that we can attract people and how we pay that money out, we do want to make doubly sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure that we're doing it in a legal way as well.
Absolutely.
But I understand the urgency of the matter, and so I don't want to kick it down the road or put too much on it. I think what you're hearing, if I'm interpreting our situation correctly, I think what you're hearing is a general consensus to move forward. But as we move forward, when we get to the final vote, we want to know how it's going to impact our budget, that it fits well within the budget that we've got next year, that it's going to accomplish what you want to accomplish, and that it's going to cross the T's and dot the I's legally as well. And so if we can get all those things accomplished, as soon as you want to bring this back to us, you are welcome to do it, and I'm sure we'll lend it proper consideration.
Sounds good. I just appreciate the support of the commission. Every time I come up here, I get positive feedback, and you guys attempt to support the police department, and I appreciate that. I really do.
Hold it before you leave. I just want to thank you and the police force, even sheriff department, EMTs, everything we did with the situation. You guys, that's when the people really realize what the police department is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Y'all were out there, you were working, everybody in the city was watching the TV, they were watching the police department, trying to make sure that they were safe.
Yeah.
That was big.
You know, that happened at probably, as I mentioned, one of our lowest times in terms of manpower and flexibility. But the irony of it is, that happened and everyone just showed up. I didn't make one phone call. I didn't pick the phone call up. I made one phone call to KSP and asked for a helicopter, and he sent two. But besides that, I mean, the U.S. Marshal showed up, Ohio State Police showed up, the fire department, the sheriff's department, EMA, Jasper, I can't even name, they just showed up, said, hey, we're here to help. Sturgis PD, Union County Sheriff's Department, I mean, the list goes on and on. They just showed up. So here we are, we have 50 people, numerous search teams just out of nowhere. So very, ironic that happened, and just shows, what teamwork can really do. It was a lot of teamwork, wasn't any egos involved, and we done our best, and we were concerned for the citizens of Henderson. That was a legitimate concern. In my 26 years, I was concerned there's going to be a phone call that something bad had come from that. So anyway, we worked real hard. Very, very proud of my department.
Thank you.
Yeah, our department done a great job.
But we're going to continue to support you and just continue to put that together and bring it back to us, and we'll take a look at it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We do have need for executive session, but because we're not going to come back with any action, and because it's likely to be sort of a lengthy executive session, I'm going to go ahead and call for the commissioner's comments before. Can I not do that? Yeah. Okay. Oh, I do. So let's do the board appointment. Thank you. I always forget those, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So we've got 3 board appointments because it's on a different page. Let me get my different page up. Here it is. So we have 3 board appointments for consideration. The first 2 are for the City County Planning Commission. These are city-only appointments to the City County Planning Commission. The first suggestion I'd like to offer for your consideration would be Frank Boyette. Frank Boyette has been a member of the Planning Commission for a number of years. He's received some high marks from other people on the Planning Commission, as well as Planning Commission staff. They have commented that he shows up prepared, ready to work, and is very considerate. He also indicated an interest to continue. And because of that, and for those reasons, I would like to entertain a motion to renew Frank Boyette on the Planning Commission for another 4-year term.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Whitt.
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Val.
Oh, yeah. There we go. So we got all ayes, so we're good to go. Next up on the City County Planning Commission is Gray Hodge. Similar story to Frank Witt. I called a couple of members on Planning Commission, a couple of staff members of the Planning Commission I spoke with Gray Hodge. He wishes to continue. He's received some high marks. So I'd like to entertain a motion to continue Gray Hodge for another 4-year term on the Planning Commission.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second? Second. Any comments, suggestions, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Whitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Val.
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. And for the Code Enforcement Board, we have Alan Taylor is on there. His term is going to expire tomorrow. I have spoken with Alan. He indicated a willingness and a desire to continue serving on the Code Enforcement Board for another 4-year term. I've talked to a few members associated with the Code Enforcement Board. One of the comments that I got is he is not afraid to make a tough decision when required, which on that particular board is an asset. He also shows up prepared, ready to work. Because of his willingness to want to continue and because of the high praise for his role on the Code Enforcement Board, I would like to entertain a motion to continue Alan Taylor
So
on
moved.
for another 4-year term on the Code Enforcement Board.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Whitt.
Aye.
Commissioner Val.
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. And thank you for that catch on the board appointments. Appreciate it. Anything else we need to do? We're good? Okay. So before we have our executive session, I did want to go ahead and move through the commissioners' comments, if any of the commissioners have any. Commissioner Thomas, anything to say?
Handy Fest this week,
Handy Fest this week starts when?
Wednesday night.
That's right.
Oh, yeah,
Wednesday.
we do have lunch and dinner,
There we go.
Handy Meats.
All set up and ready to go?
It's ready.
Good deal. Commissioner Pruitt?
I would just like to say this is Juneteenth weekend coming up, so we got a lot going on, Handy Fest, Juneteenth celebrations, and that's
All right. Commissioner Witt?
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Bowles?
Just say, I echo the Handy Fest comments, very exciting event for Henderson, a great community event for us that's kind of unique to Henderson. Juneteenth exciting, Father's Day exciting. I've got an anniversary coming up too, it's a big holiday. That's right. Apologies everyone for me being late, I was stuck in a hearing, so sorry I missed the first half of the meeting, first big portion of the meeting.
We've got a lot going on around here.
Thank you all for handling.
We've got the Mexican General Consul is going to be in town a week from Friday. Not in Henderson, I believe in Evansville for sort of a joint meeting. As I get more details, I'll certainly funnel it out to the rest of the commission. Also, a couple of people have mentioned the intercity program throughout this meeting. I did want to bring up that on June 22nd at 5 o'clock at the Municipal Services Center, that is going to be our progress report date. And so all of the work that these committees have been doing over the course of the last few months, we're going to get back together. When we bring all the committees back together, there's about 60 to 70 people serving on these committees. We're going to bring them all back together and talk about all the projects that we're working on to improve our inner cities in the areas that the committees are focusing on. And then we're also going to put our heads together in terms of if we need more information or if we have any suggestions or other projects that we might tackle. That is going to be on next Thursday at 5 o'clock. And then we are still heading for a September final report out date. And that will be when we bring the entire community together who would like to be in attendance, listen to the projects. We vote on the projects that we want to see move forward in accordance with our budget for this year, which I'll remind you is $300,000 for this year. And then we'll move forward. And so far, I'm really excited about a lot of the projects that I'm hearing. A lot of them are going to have a very material impact, and many of them aren't even going to cost that much money. Just require a little elbow grease and a little bit of different thinking than what we've had in the past. So I'm really excited about moving forward with that. And with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Before you read it, I do want to remind everybody we will not be coming back with action, and we will likely be gone for quite a long time. You're welcome to stick around for the adjournment. That'll happen afterward, but you don't have to. So can we have that motion, please?
I move the commission go on executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810, paragraph 1, subsection F, for a discussion which might lead to the discipline or dismissal of employees/employees.
we have a second?
Second.
This executive session will take place in Buzzy's office and will be for the commission and Buzzy only. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Witt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye.